Today on Inside Utah Politics, all things midterm election, from critical deadlines to registering at the polls. The Lieutenant Governor is here with everything you need to know to make sure your vote counts. Plus, the race in Utah's 4th Congressional District is right in the mix in the battle of control of Congress. Could it help Democrats flip the House? Our panel debates.
Time now for Inside Utah Politics.
Good Sunday morning, and thanks so much for joining us for Inside Utah Politics. I'm Glenn Mills. The midterm election just 2 days away now. Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox here to make sure you are ready for the big day. This is a pretty anticipated midterm election, especially when you take a look at midterm elections from the past.
Yeah, we've been pleasantly surprised. It's a good thing. This feels a little bit more like a presidential election. Again, historically, for your viewers, midterm elections, people just don't vote. We were seeing registration numbers 4 years ago very, very low. Maybe 4,000 people had registered at this time, and now we're seeing about 1,000% increase on that number right now, over 40,000.
That's pretty awesome, and we needed it because you can't sugarcoat it. When you take a look at our historical turnout, it's not good here in the state of Utah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not. Back in the 60s, it was really good. It started to decline in the 70s and 80s, and then in the 90s and 2000s, we kind of bottomed out. We were in the bottom 5 in many elections. Last presidential election 2 years ago, we were 39th in the country, which is actually an improvement, sad to say,
right.
but we're hoping to see those numbers improve even further this election.
You launched a campaign to do just that, to target that very issue and try to get more people out. As you mentioned, it's up big time. But talk about how that has been received and how that might play out with other factors like, Mitt Romney on the ballot and some very important propositions on the ballot as well.
Yeah, well, sure. I would love to take all the credit for the big increase.
Well, we'll give you some credit anyway.
Hopefully there is some of it. But the legislature felt it was important. They gave us some funds to actually do this ad campaign to let people know, because there have been some changes that are important. So you talked about having Mitt Romney on the ballot. I'm sure that's part of driving it. Having vote by mail, we've seen big increases in vote by mail, and now all but 2 counties are vote by mail this year. So people are getting their ballots ahead of time. They have an opportunity to look through them. That's been great. We of course have a very competitive race in the 4th Congressional District, which I think is probably driving people out as well. And then there's just this political environment across the country where since the last election, people are paying more attention. They're talking about politics. They want to get more involved, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, all good steps, no doubt about that. I saw an ad run by Mitt Romney. So he's in the middle of a Senate race, and one of his commercials that's airing is specifically about getting out and voting. That's pretty much all it talks about. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Yeah,
it's very rare. Of course, we're grateful about it. Anytime any of the candidates from any party want to talk about the importance of getting out and voting, that's a big deal, and we hope more of them will encourage everyone to get out and vote, not just trying to encourage the people will vote for you and discouraging the other side from voting.
Right. Let's talk more about the mail-in ballots. I love that option. I mean, it comes right to your house. All you have to do is take time and fill it out. And as you mentioned, it gives you more time to study that out. But some very important deadlines we need to know about regarding the ballot. Get into those because tomorrow's the day.
Yeah, so this is big. Please, everyone that's listening, your ballot has to be postmarked by tomorrow, by Monday, the day before the election. You can't just mail it, so you can't go in at like 7 o'clock at night and stick it in in the mailbox. You have to make sure it's postmarked. But don't panic. If you can't get it postmarked that day, you can actually go and drop it off at a polling location on election day, or you can leave it home and go to a polling location and vote like you used to. Some people really like that as well.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the traditional way, people like to stick to that.
You can still do that.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that in just a minute. But sticking with the mail-in ballots, we've had some issues in smaller counties or smaller locations before where people might have taken it on Saturday. And because of the way the system works there, it wasn't postmarked in time. So what's your advice to folks that maybe live outside of, the major metropolitan areas?
Yeah.
Should they not even deal with the post office at this point?
Well, it's still okay. What I would recommend is if you go to the post office to mail it, talk to the person there at the post office. The worker, let them know it has to be postmarked. They will postmark it for you.
So sit there and watch them
postmark it and then mail it right away. And again, don't panic if you haven't. That's okay. And if you're not sure, if you mailed it on a Saturday and you're not sure it'll be postmarked, it's okay. You can actually go and vote at the poll as well. well, and we'll only count one of them. So you're fine. The one that comes in first will be the one that's counted. And for the first time, Glenn, I think it's really important to note, if you haven't registered, historically that would mean you're out of luck now. For the first time in the history of the state of Utah, in every county, you can go and register on Election Day and cast your ballot on Election Day. So there are no excuses for those that have been procrastinating.
Okay, so I have one more question I want to get on the mail-in ballots, but let's go ahead and get into the details of same-day registration since we're on that topic. What do people need to bring to the polls to be able to successfully register on that day?
Yeah, so this is very important. If you go to vote.utah.gov, you can see the list of criteria to be able to register to vote and what you need to bring. So if you have a driver's license, that works great. If you don't, you may need 2 forms of ID, and those can be a bill, an electric bill, or something from your place of residence that shows where you live. So go on there, look at the details, and find out exactly what you need to bring with you when you go to register on Election Day.
Okay, sounds good, and we will have that information on our website as well. Back to mail-in ballots, though. There is no doubt about it. That has had a big impact on turnout. Talk about that.
Yeah, it has. Again, because people, one of the problems we've seen, and they're actually related, is people are a little nervous because they don't know what's on the ballot. They feel like they don't know enough. This gives them an opportunity to actually see it ahead of time and go and do the research. We've seen the numbers on our website, vote.utah.gov, skyrocket as people go and log in. They can read about the propositions, which is another reason I think we're seeing so much turnout. We have 3 propositions and 3 constitutional amendments and a non-binding ballot question. And they go on and they can read the pros and the cons, and then they make up their minds for themselves, and they get to vote it. So that's the great news. People love it. There is one downside to having vote by mail, and that is if there's a close race, we won't know on election night. Because those ballots can be mailed through Monday, we'll get a lot of ballots on Wednesday and Thursday. We actually have 2 weeks legally, this has always been the case, to get those ballots counted. But plan on some of these close races, you probably won't know for a week or 2 exactly who won.
Yeah, and we may very well see that, even with some of the propositions this year. That could be an issue as well. I thought you were going to say the downside is not everyone gets their little I voted sticker.
Okay, so this is the big one. People really want the sticker. I got to give a shout out to Tooele County. They mailed stickers with the ballots. We're trying to get all the counties to do that, and it's something I'm working on for the next 2 years.
One thing the ACLU put out that I think would be important to mention as well is some counties, you can put it in the mail and it's postage is paid, others not so much. But they're saying that you can still go ahead and put it in the mail even if it doesn't have the prepaid postage and it's going to get there. Is that true?
So we've been told by the U.S. Postal Service that they will deliver a ballot even if it doesn't have a stamp on it. Now, I will encourage you, if you have a stamp or can get a stamp, please put a stamp on. That
Better
makes
to be
sure
safe than sorry.
There's no question about it. But they have told us if you put it in the mail without a stamp, they will deliver it, and then the postage will be due by the county.
You've also mentioned you can just go to the county clerk's office and drop it in too.
Absolutely.
If you don't want to put that stamp on
and not just
there.
that, but if you go to vote.utah.gov, you can find, or the county website, you can find drop boxes near you. So not just the county clerk's office. Many counties have drop boxes throughout the county, and maybe one very close to where you live.
Okay, so polling places will be available on Election Day, traditional hours, various locations. You can find all that information as well. One last thing I want to touch base on. We've had some problems in San Juan County. You see it as such an issue that you're actually going to send someone down there to monitor Election Day on that day. Talk about that.
Yeah, that's correct. There's been an ongoing lawsuit between some of the tribal members down there and the county government. Our job is to help them work together to resolve those issues. We want to make sure that everyone who is qualified to vote, everyone who is registered to vote, can vote down there. And so we're going to go down. We're going to be available to help. We'll have multiple members of my staff down there, just making sure that we get questions answered, we get people the help that they need, and make sure that everybody that wants to vote gets a chance to vote.
Okay, one last time, that is vote.utah.gov for all the information you need. And I've got to tell you, I haven't seen electricity and excitement around a midterm election like I've seen around this one.
I agree.
Probably in my lifetime.
Yeah, I agree. It's remarkable, and it makes me happy. I want to see people vote, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Voting is so important. It's not an end. I believe it's a beginning. I believe if people will vote, they'll pay more attention, they'll be more involved, they'll hold more people accountable, and we desperately need that in our country.
No doubt about that. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. Coming up, immigration. It's a heated debate in our country right now. So what impact will it have on election results? Our Washington correspondent will break it down for us. Stay with us.